Is this a great game or what? With the Hall of Famer Tim Kurkjian. I'm his son, Jeff Kurkjian. We are at the quarter mark of the baseball season. We're just about 40 games in, Dad. We're together in the basement studio.
Right. And the first 40 games, the first quarter was unbelievable as far as quirky, crazy things that happen, unpredictable things. Just a quick takeaway or two. The National League West is great, and it's going to be the Dodgers are the best team, but it's going to be a 4-team fist fight the rest of the year in that division. The AL Central is really good right now. The Tigers have the best record in the league. At the moment, the Twins have won 8 games in a row. The Royals are red hot, and the Guardians are pretty darn good, especially out of their bullpen. So those are two things to take away. Plus, the Yankees have played 40 games through Sunday and hit 70 homers. That's the most homers the Yankees have ever hit through 40 games in any season. The Yankees. And, of course, Aaron Judge is on his way towards, another historic season. It's absolutely preposterous what he has done so far.
Well, I know you have a lot of quarter season takeaways. We want to dive into those, but we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that this past Sunday was Mother's Day. And my wife, Emily, we have a daughter, McKinley, who'll be 2 this August. She wanted to go into our little village of Skipack, Pennsylvania. They had a spring festival, so little tents. You were here for one of those weekends, Dad. And we walked down, and as we're walking out of our neighborhood, we've got the stroller. I see a mom wearing a baseball jersey, playing catch with her son in the front yard on Mother's Day.
Well, again,
how beautiful was that?
Jeff, that's what it's all about. And again, it reminds me a little bit of Christian Arroyo, who we had on the show last year,
right.
Major League Baseball player, and his mother threw him batting practice until he was 14 years old.
Unbelievable.
And she hit ground balls to him when she was 8 months pregnant. So moms are so involved in the lives of the children. It's unbelievable. My mother, of course, Nana took us to every baseball game, every basketball game, everything we ever did. My mother was there for everything. So we have a real warm spot in our heart for moms.
So a happy belated Mother's Day. And I know we have a lot of moms that like to listen to the show. So thank you for all that you do, because this show would not be possible without our mothers and without our wives taking care of the kids while we're doing this.
Right. And some other day notes from Mother's Day in the big leagues. William and Wilson Contreras, brothers, both homered Sunday on Mother's Day.
What?
It's only the third time that's happened. The DiMaggio brothers, Joe and Dom, did it, and the Giambi brothers, Jason and Jeremy, did it. So they're the third set of brothers to hit home runs on Mother's Day. And Jace Young and Josh Young of the Rangers played against each other, and their mother, Mary, threw out the first ball at the game. And Josh hit a home run. So for the first time since 1914, when Mother's Day became a national holiday type of thing, this is the first time that a brother homered in a game and his brother took part in the same game. So that's what we saw yesterday. We have, and there's so many great Mother's Day. And who do we remember who we had on last year beyond Christian Arroyo? Casey Candell.
That's right.
And it's impossible to go through Mother's Day without telling the Casey Candell story. His mother, Helen, of course, played in the Women's Professional Baseball League, which inspired the movie A League of Their Own. Do you remember a Casey?
There's no crying in baseball.
Right. Do you remember a Casey Candell story?
Oh my gosh.
Remember he told us.
My favorite story was when they said she couldn't play in the father-son softball league anymore.
Right. It was right because
she was too good.
That's what Casey told me. She said she was barred from the mother-daughter, father-son softball game at school because she was too good. And remember what he told us last year on the interview, which I didn't know, is that Helen Candell, in first time she saw Casey play in the big league, she picked up his bat and said, this bat is way too light. You need to use a bigger bat than this. This is what his mother told him. And I always love this one too. Mark Reynolds, really good major league player, 299 homers, great defensive third baseman. His mother is like the greatest baseball fan in the world. In other words, she understands what she's watching, like better than any mom that you'll ever meet. So he told me once that one day he called his mother, and his mother asked him on the phone, "How did you miss that 2-0 slider last night?" And Mark had to say, "Mom, it's not that easy to do that." So, again, happy Mother's Day on Sunday to all of our moms. You make the game go. You make our lives go.
Now, obviously, we've had a lot of games since our last episode as well this past Thursday. So any other takeaways? I'm sure you have a lot that you want to dive into.
Yeah, the poor Rockies. I hate to lead with this, but there's no other way around it. Through Sunday, they were 7-33. So only one team in Major League history has gotten to the 40-game mark, the quarter mark, with fewer victories than the Rockies this year. And that was the Orioles in 1988, who were 6-34. And who covered that team every day?
You.
21 games in a row. And they got to 6-34. The Rockies have had They've had a bunch of 8-game losing streaks. They're 7-33. They fired their manager, Bud Black. Do not blame him for this spectacular failure on every level with the poor Rockies. Jeff, they became the first team ever to give up 8 runs in a game. Try to follow me here. And then the next 4 games, they gave up an increasing run number in each of the next 4 games after giving up 8. So they gave up 8 in a game, then they gave up 10, then they gave up 11, and then they gave up 13, and then they gave up 21 in consecutive games. Jeff, in a 4-game span, they gave up 55 runs.
Here's the crazy part. My wife, Emily, Dad, I'm out playing on the play set in the backyard, and she goes, "Hey." I said, "Yeah," like thinking, time to dinner or something, something, get off that or whatever. She goes, "Did you hear? The Rockies gave up 51 runs in 5 games. And then she goes, "They fired their manager." Just shouting this. And I've never been more flattered that my wife, Emily, would take so much interest in that. And I also got a text from my friend Andrew. Andrew is the dad of a little girl that Emily used to nanny for when we lived in Las Vegas. He loves the podcast, by the way. Shout out Andrew Patterson. And he sent me and said, "Now this is a football score," because they lost 21-0.
Right. And the last time we had a 21-0 game in the NFL was 6 years ago. And remember, we had a 14-0 game this year in the major leagues. And that was the first, and the last time that happened in an NFL game was 2008. So 21-0 happens more often apparently in baseball than it does in football, which is just amazing. And Jeff, just to finish with the poor Rockies. So Max Fried at the quarter pole of the Yankees had 6 wins, 6-0. The Rockies had 7. So Max Fried had almost as many wins as a team at the quarter pole of the season. That's not a healthy thing.
No, and he has been unbelievable. I mean, just talk about an offseason move to change the dynamic of a starting rotation. Right. My goodness.
Right. And as I've told you many times, anagram for Max Fried, dream fix. And for almost single-handedly, he has fixed a starting rotation that has been really banged up with injuries. So, Jeff, Did
you tell Booney that? Did you text him that?
No.
Or does he? I mean, he's the manager of the Yankees, but he's your friend as well.
He probably already knew that, although I might have told him that along the way.
And he said, "All right, Tim, thanks a lot. I got to go manage the most expensive franchise in history."
I totally understand. All right. So, Jeff, I had a really good feel-good story the other day. I did the game with Dave Jagler in Pittsburgh, the Pirates against the Braves. And as we know, the Pirates are struggling mightily, and they fired their manager, Derek Shelton, and replaced him with Don Kelly. And Don Kelly on Friday night won his major league debut as a manager. And again, the Pirates haven't won very many games, but Don Kelly grew up in Mount Lebanon, Pennsylvania, 12 minutes from PNC Park. He went to Point Park College, which is 5 minutes from PNC Park. You can see the college from the unbelievably high press box at PNC Park. He was the bench coach for the Pirates the last 6 years. He played for the Pirates, and now he's the manager of the Pirates. So he gets his first victory. They already laminate the scorecard.
Very cool.
And he's going to put it up at a special place. So I asked him, I said, and then they won 3-2 in a very, nail biter type of game. So I said, did you drive home alone after the game? Maybe what were you thinking as you're driving home alone after just winning a game, your first managerial game in your hometown, all this? And he goes, no, my 16-year-old son who just got his learner's permit drove the car home from my first major league victory. So Dave asked him at our little meeting, I said, were you more nervous, like trying to hold on to a 3-2 lead in the ninth inning? Or were you more nervous that your son who just got his learner's permit was driving you home? He said it was equal nerves, believe me.
So that probably took the height of the nerves of the moment away from him, which is good.
So then the next day, his 10-year-old son has a Little League game at 8 in the morning. So Don Kelly is able to go to his son's Little League game, and his 10-year-old goes 3 for 3. And Don Kelly goes, it's been quite a 48 hours for me. Like, he gets named the manager. He wins a game. His son drives the car home with a learner's permit. Another son goes 3 for 3 in the morning. And then in the game that we covered, he got ejected from the game for arguing balls and strikes. So we looked and we looked and we looked, and we couldn't find anyone back at least to 1980, a manager who was ejected in his second career game as a manager. I'm sure it's happened. Maybe someone got ejected in the first game, but it's really, really hard to check. But that's what happened to Don Kelly. That was his first day, basically, as a manager in the major league.
And he won 2 of those 3 games in his first
they
series.
won on Sunday. So the first series he did against the Atlanta Braves,
a good team.
They won 2 out of 3. It's pretty good.
It is incredible. And the point you're leaving out right now is after getting ejected, his 10-year-old drove him home after that game. Which was a whole other bunch of nerves.
Right. All right, last thing, Tarek Skubal of the Tigers is just ridiculous. He has a 6-start stretch now in which he's walked 1 and struck out 50. And I asked Frank from the Elias, when's the last time that any pitcher has had 1 walk and 50 strikeouts during a 6-start period? And believe it or not, 3 guys did it in 2021. I remember all 3 of them. I should have remembered. Garrett Cole, Corbin Burns, and Jacob deGrom all had 50 or more strikeouts and less than 2 walks in a 6-start stretch. But Skubal is the only one to have an ERA under 1 in those 6 starts. So he's the only major league pitcher ever to have a 6-start stretch. 1 walk, 50 strikeouts, ERA under 1. That's how good Tarek Skubal has been this year.
All right, Dad, let's jump right into the Quirkjians.
Right. So Jorge Soler of the Angels recently had a 3-run walk-off double, which is very unusual. But Joe Adell of the Angels also had one earlier this year. And so 2 guys on the same team before we even got to Memorial Day has done this. So I called Frank from the Elias to figure out the last time that this has happened twice in a season, especially to one team.
No. I called Frank from the Elias. In fact, so many people have been wondering, who is this character on our show? And so we called, literally, Frank from the Elias. It's on. Is this a great game or what? Hey, Frank.
Hey, guys. How are you?
Good, Frank. So, as you do so often help me, I have a curious question, and I can look up a lot of stuff myself. But when it comes to really tricky stuff, the only people to call are the people at the Elias. Look, all my best friends in the world work for or have worked for the Elias, Seymour Siwoff, all the Hurt Boys, and now Frank and his 2 brothers, John and Santo, also work for the Elias. So, Frank, let's start with, give us the answer to my query about Jorge Soler and Joe Adell.
Well, first I looked for the last time it happened, thinking maybe it was it's been a while, but it actually happened last year. Tim, you and I know a lot of times questions you ask, you say, "Oh, when's the last time this happened?" And I'm like, "Well,
happened 2 weeks ago.
It happened 4 days ago." So when I saw it happen last year, I was like, "Oh, here we go again." But then I remember you saying, because it's two for the same team, which by the way has never happened. So then I said, "Huh." So I wonder how many times it happens twice in a year, just for all teams. And 1999 was the last time it happened. Brian Dahlback did it for the Red Sox, and Mark McLemore for the Texas Rangers.
So it happened twice that year, not for the same team.
Not for the same team. Right.
And
that has never happened.
Twice for the same team.
So the Angels are the only team ever to do this in the same season, and they did it in like the first 6 weeks of the season.
That's crazy.
That's why we call Frank at the Elias. So Frank, just tell us, what is your job like every day, and explain how you got into this.
Well, it literally is every day, as you know, Tim.
Right.
I
call you every day,
because
right?
He's like, "Sorry, Frank, I know you're having dinner with your family, but I need some help."
It's literally every day. I don't think there is because we do more than just baseball. So it is It is a 365 day type of job, right?
Mm-hmm.
Holidays, weekends are probably even more busy than just a regular. So like a Christmas Day is more busy than a Monday. Right. So it's a little crazy in that sense, but just continuously, I'm very curious about sports history, right? I always have been. My curiosity always stemmed more towards the Yankees. I know a lot historically more about the Yankees than I do any other team. But just in general, just knowing things that have happened so many years ago. I mean, baseball's 150 years. Baseball's been around, which is it's unbelievable when you think about how different the world was. I mean, 10 years ago, let alone 150 years ago. So that's always sparked my interest on how interesting it was when you find something that happens today in 2025, and then you say, "Wow, that hasn't happened since, I don't know, 1927." And it's just, to me, it's like mind-boggling. Like,
right. And
100 years ago. So it's been 100 years that this thing hasn't happened. It's just crazy.
And that's what fascinates me the most when I ask Frank a question. We played well over 200,000 Major League games, but that game has never happened before. Or what the Angels did has never been done by a team ever in 150 years. So Frank, your two brothers, John and Santo, are also with the Elias Sports Bureau and have been for 4 decades like you have. What was your house like growing up? Was it a gigantic trivia game every day with sports? Explain what it was like.
I think my parents would have wished it was a trivia game for sports, but my house was more like a wrecking ball for sports. The days of me and my brothers in the basement just demolishing. We used to play hockey. We had the ceiling in my basement was maybe 6 feet high, or maybe not even 5 feet high. Just playing hockey, scoring a goal, and raising your arms and putting the stick through the ceiling, and just crazy stuff went on in that basement. So I think it was more of that than statistics. Although I know my brothers used to play a game with playing cards, like sort of like recreate, not sort of Stratomatic, but not exactly like that. It's sort of like our own version of a game that all of us played, which is interesting, with baseball cards and like a deck of playing cards to recreate the lineups. So that I guess was one of the things that we had from a statistical standpoint, for sure.
Right. We were in Syracuse a couple weeks ago. We interviewed Coach Boeheim, and Frank from the Elias, if I may call you by your full name there, middle name from the, of course.
Right.
We have a familiar relationship here. Your niece and I graduated the same year at Syracuse University. How crazy is that?
And I saw your brother John at a couple of functions at Syracuse, bringing his daughter and taking her home. It was amazing. Same year.
That's crazy. I think that's wild. And then here we go. You and I, back in the old Baseball Tonight days, used to work together. Santo, sure. I think, used to go there too.
Right.
I think.
Yeah.
And that was probably 20 years ago, maybe even more than 20 years ago.
Right.
So,
Jeff, the Elias used to send a guy to Baseball Tonight 5 nights a week, and he would sit in there. So when we had a question, we just had to walk across the hall, and there was the Elias with all their computers. It was the greatest setup ever. And I kid a lot, but I call the Elias all the time. They are the official scorekeepers of all the major sports. And I can look up a lot of stuff on my own, but in the end, I have to fact check it and make sure it's right. And that's why we go to Frank, because he and John and Santo and the rest of them are going to get it right no matter what.
I mean, we fact check each other. I mean, you can never be too safe because you don't want to get something out. You don't want to be wrong, right? Like when you're out there.
Sure, absolutely.
Someone will find it. That's the one thing different about today than maybe even 20 years ago.
Right.
Well,
someone will find. If you're wrong, someone will find out.
Right.
Sure.
Well, Frank, I'm really glad we could have you join the show. We can squash the beef I have with you because as his son and podcast co-host, I was getting jealous because he seems to speak to you more than he speaks to me, and I call him 3 times a day.
I speak to Tim more than I speak to my mother, so we're even.
Frank, thanks for being such a good sport. Thank you for joining us today. Say hi to John. Say hi to Santos. Say hi to the rest of them. We'll see you soon, okay?
Yes, thanks, guys.
Dad, when I say the amount of people that wanted Frank from the Elias on this show, I'm getting inundated with comments and DMs and messages. So another thank you to Frank from the Elias, a bit of a legend on this show, for joining us for our Quirkjians. We have more Quirkjians that we want to jump into, though, right?
And speaking of the Braves, they just went 16 games without an error from an infielder, which I keep telling you, Jeff, it's breathtaking how skillful and athletic our baseball players are these days. When you go 16 games without an error from an infielder, and that streak was broken on Saturday in the game that I did, not the point. So I checked it out. The Braves had 2 16-game streaks last year without an error from an infielder, and the Rangers had a 32-game streak last year without an error from the infielder. Does that sound like a lot to you?
It does, but I also wonder if there's anybody, whether it's the bench coach or the manager or anybody, who's tracking this, because I'd be telling my team every day, way to go. Or is it unspoken like a no-hitter?
I think
you can't say anything?
It's just unspoken. All right. So Brett Wisely of the Giants the other day, recently, had a game in which he had 2 sacrifice bunts and 2 RBIs in the same game. So he's the first Giant to have 2 sack bunts, which we don't have sack bunts anymore these days, Jeff, and 2 RBIs in the same game. The last Giant to do that was Robbie Thompson in 1986. And the interesting part of it is the guy who was hitting before Robbie Thompson in the order for that game was Bob Melvin, who is now the manager of the San Francisco Giants. So he was at both of the Giants games in which this happened, one as a player in 1986 and now in 2025 as the manager of the team.
You know, you brought up sacrifices, Dad, and you and I got in an exchange over the phone last week, and I just wanted to bring this forth because I was watching the Phillies game, right? I live outside Philadelphia. That's where our studio is, too, so I tend to watch those games on my local channels, and Bryson Stott's on second. Trey Turner hits a fly ball to center field, sacrifices him to third base. Not really a sacrifice fly, doesn't count as a sacrifice fly, but then on the next at-bat, Bryce Harper, fly ball to center field. Bryson Stott scores on a sacrifice fly by definition. And I was talking to you while this happened, and I said, Dad, I feel like in this instance, Trey Turner should be awarded a sacrifice fly because he moved him into a position in which he was able to score on the next play.
All right. Now, Jeff, briefly in Major League history, you would get a sacrifice fly, no time at bat, for advancing a runner from second to third. It didn't last for very long in the big leagues, but there was a period where that happened. But I'm going to disagree with you on this, Jeff, because if you hit a weak ground ball to the second baseman and advance the runner from second to third, which is your job, then you need to get a sacrifice for that also because you were trying to do that. I don't think Trey Turner was trying to hit a deep fly out there and move him around, even though it was very effective. It's a productive out, but you should get a time at bat for that because you were trying to get a hit, not just hit a fly ball to advance a runner.
My only argument would be is you score it at the end of the innings.
All right, well, you can't do the predestined hit kind of thing and say, all right.
Well, you do that with earned runs.
Well, that's a different story.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't make this up if it wasn't already established with earned runs. Official scorers have to determine would a runner have scored on the incident of the error or on the incident of the hit that came later. So, okay, all right, I'll
Jeff,
let it be.
Very well said.
You're acting like you've been covering this game for 45 years or something.
And I was an official scorer.
Yes,
and
that's
it's
true.
tricky.
That's
okay.
true. All
A couple other things. So we talked about the 21-0 game. All right. Stephen Kolak pitched a shutout in the 21-0 game. And Jeff, sorry, it's a shutout. It's not a complete game shutout. That is redundant. So the last pitcher to pitch a shutout in a 21-0 game was Red Ruffing, Hall of Famer in 1939. But he only went 8 innings because the game ended afher 8 innings.
Did they have a mercy rule back then?
No, it was a rain situation, I believe. So the last pitcher to pitch a shutout in a 21-0 game was a guy named Silver King in 89. That would be 1889. So what Stephen Kolak did in a 21-0 game hasn't been done since 1889. That's unbelievable.
And Silver King could make it on Team Tim for both the Olympic team and the royalty team.
And the all-color team, sure.
And the all-deck of cards team. We got them all.
Well, speaking of Team Tim, Jeff, the game on Saturday, I got such a big kick out of this. And I know it's unhealthy for me to get such a big kick out of this. But I came up with the all-unfortunate name for a pitcher. I came up with a 10-man staff because Bailey Falter pitched for the Pirates on Friday night and pitched exceptionally well to win Don Kelly's major league debut as a manager. Bailey Falter. On Saturday, the winning pitcher was Scott Blewett, Bluett. And Aaron Bummer also pitched on Friday night for the Braves, and one of the guys broadcasting the game was Bob Walk. So all 4 of those guys are on the unfortunate name for a pitcher pitching staff that I came up with, and 4 of them were in the ballpark at the same time. The rest of the team, do you want to hear the rest of the team?
Yeah, I do. I'm just shocked that all 3 of those guys were involved in the same series.
Well, that was kind of the point of this list. I'm looking around going, oh my gosh. Okay, so Bailey Falter's one starter, of course. Homer Bailey.
Giving up a homer.
Right. Bob Walk, who we mentioned. Walker Buehler.
Yeah.
And a few years ago, the Angels called up a pitcher named Jansen Junk. Junk. Throwing junk. Scott Blewett, who we mentioned. Aaron Bummer, who we mentioned. The Twins have a really good reliever. Griffin Jacks.
Yeah, like homers.
Right.
Yeah.
In the early 1900s, a guy named Bruce Hitt, Hitt pitched, give up a hit. And this is the biggest stretch. Grant Balfour pitched for years in the big league. Balfour. So I went to Scott Blewett, who, by the way, is a good pitcher. And the day I talked to him, Saturday, he had been with 3 teams this year, and he had been with 3 teams by like May the 7th.
What?
He had been moving around, like released, traded, everything else. So, but of course, naturally, I asked him about his last name, Blewett, and he's a baseball player. So I said, Scott, how often does the name Blewett come up in conversation with people with the odd last name that you have? I said, every day? He goes, almost every day. I said, when did the jokes start about your name? And he said, the jokes started rolling in kindergarten. So he was 5 years old, and here it is almost 25 years later, and almost every day somebody makes a mention of his last name, Scott Blewett. But I need to repeat, Jeff, he's a good major league pitcher, and he's been very important to the Braves since they acquired him.
You know, this is not the same, but similar. I was with my neighbors over the weekend, and we all live on Inspiration is the street we live on.
Right.
And I asked them, I've lived here 2.5 years, going on 3, and they're all original owners. 1998, they moved in, right? And I said, do people ever comment on our street? And before I could finish this, every time some representative goes, oh, it's very nice. Because we also have like Serendipity and Serenity and all these really calming names in the neighborhood, and we're Inspiration. And before I could finish, all the time, we get commented on our street names.
And how about your boy Justin Doe?
Justin Doe grew up on Doe Lane.
So one of your elementary school buddies.
Yep.
His last name is Doe,
Yep.
and he lived on Doe Lane.
And now he makes a lot of dough because he's a dentist. It's a true story. Shout out Justin Doe. What's up, dude?
Way to go. Okay, Jeff, this date in baseball history.
Yeah, this is a big one. We go back in time and now doing 3 episodes a week. Remember, we can give you more this dates in baseball history. Wherever you are right now, take a quick second, subscribe wherever you're listening, and share this with a friend so that we can explore and expand what we get to do 3 times a week with you. Okay, what do you got?
So, Jeff, on this date in 1942, Jim Tobin, pitcher, hit 3 home runs in one game. He remains the only pitcher to hit 3 home runs in one game. Have you ever heard of him? Do you think more pitchers would have hit 3? Are you shocked that even one hit 3?
I'm shocked that anyone hit 2, to be completely honest, because pitchers, 1, don't hit anymore. 2, are not known for being great hitters. But 3, if I'm not mistaken, you told me that David Ortiz, in his illustrious home run hitting
Hall of Fame career,
never hit 3 home runs
in a game.
And I think, if I remember, Gary Sheffield didn't do it either. There was one other name.
Yes, Rafael Palmeiro.
Oh, that's right.
All 3 of those guys hit 500 career homers, and none of the 3 ever hit 3 in a game. But Jim Tobin, a pitcher, hit 3 in one game, and the night before that game, he hit a home run as a pinch hitter. So a pitcher actually hit a home run in 4 consecutive at-bats. And I'm told, if I remember this correctly, he hit a ball like to the warning track. So a pitcher came close to hitting 4 homers in one game. How about that?
I think he missed his calling.
Yes, but he was a good pitcher, too.
He should have pulled a reverse Steve Sparks.
Right.
Or instead of trying out to be an infielder and becoming a pitcher, he should have...
Where's the infielder line?
Where's the infield practice?
Our happy birthday this week is to Bobby Valentine, who turned 75 years old today. Bobby is one of my great mentors in the game. I was the beat writer for the Dallas Morning News when Bobby made his managerial debut, and the stuff that he taught me along the way, I will never forget. And remember, he was a guest on our podcast last year. Right. He made us laugh uproariously loud, especially, Jeff. What made you laugh the most when he was talking about on what he was talking about last year?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because I brought a clip.
Oh, good.
We're gonna go to the clip of a moment when he was not a manager, but he learned from a manager of a little bit of a slip up. Let's go to the clip.
Yeah, welcome home dinner. This is a big deal. We're playing the Freeway Series out against the Angels, and the Angels and the Dodgers would have this breakfast together to welcome both teams back from spring training before the season would start. And the managers from the respective teams would get up and introduce their players. And 2 years, not 1 year, 2 years consecutively, 71 and 72, as I made the team, Walt introduced me as Billy Valentine. And when Danny Ozark, who was a spectacular guy, who was the third base coach of the team, said, "Don't worry, I told him it's Bobby." And I said, "Yeah, well, what the heck did he say? What did he say?" He says, "Well, we got a lot of Billies. What's one more? And what's the big deal with one more?" So yeah, that's how I was introduced twice as, and he always called me Billy until he traded me.
Including in the elevator that day, right? Tell that story.
One day in Philadelphia, my mom and dad drive down to the game. It's a big deal for my dad to leave Stamford, get out again. He drives down with my Uncle Mike sitting check at the wheel, making sure that he can get to Philadelphia. He gets in. We check in at the same time. We get on the elevator at the same time. And he gets on and I said, "Oh, Skip." Walt was with my mom and dad. And I said, "This is my mom and dad." And he kind of nodded. He was smoking a cigarette in the elevator. It was okay at that time, but he smoked a cigarette all the time, okay? And he blew out the puff of smoke and he said, "Okay, Billy, thanks." And then got off. I'm going to tell you, my dad was 5'7". Walt was like 6'3". My dad wanted to chase him down the hallway. He wanted to chase him down. I'm telling you, because I said, he probably doesn't know my name, Dad. It's one of those things, It's
I'm 31 years old, and I always wanted to say I brought a clip. Like they do it like Johnny Carson, late night, Tonight Show.
Good.
We actually have a clip.
Right. And I talked to Bobby the other day, and he, again, every time I talk to him, I learned something. So we were talking just basically about the strikeout rate in the big leagues, how high it is, and how great the pitching is. The stuff is ridiculous. But he was telling me that, he saw a game the other night where somebody took 3 pitches, had 3 pitches in the at-bat, took all 3, and struck out on 3 pitches without swinging the bat. And Bobby tells me, he goes, back when I played, and again, Bobby's not an angry, bitter guy. He loves today's players, all that. But he said, back when I played, late 60s, mostly in the 70s, he said, if you went to the plate and they threw you 3 pitches and you didn't swing at any of them and you struck out, they would sometimes take you out of the game. I mean, that's the way the game was played back then. The manager would look at you and go, what are you doing? But in today's game, as guys look for a pitch to drive and see 3 pitches that maybe they can't hit anyway, sometimes you see a guy take 3 pitches, strike out without swinging, and walk back to the plate.
Dad, it's my understanding that you have a Team Tim for us today.
Right. Well, what was the other really big news of the week, Jeff?
Well, I mean, if this would have been on Thursday of last week, so after our last podcast had published, the Catholic Church has a new pope. Is that what you're talking about?
That's it. And Jeff, we're going to be careful with this. We're deeply respectful of the Pope, the Catholic religion, but Pope Leo is American-born.
Yep.
And apparently he's a big baseball fan. Now, and he went to Villanova.
Dad, get this. This is true, honest-to-God researched. In 2005, the Chicago White Sox are playing in the World Series.
And yes, and they won the World Series.
And there is video evidence, this is not a joke, of Pope Leo shot on the broadcast of the World Series. They did a bump shot to the crowd like they do, and there's the Pope. Not the Pope yet, but the Pope. And Dad, this is confirmed with facial recognition and everything, and he is dressed just like any other fan. What are the chances, Dad? Think about that. 1, that he'd be at the game. 2, that some cameraman put it on it was divine intervention for him to pick this random fan.
And I saw the picture, and he's wearing a White Sox jersey, and I thought it was the greatest thing ever. So that's why we're going to do the all-Pope team here.
Well, also, did you know that he used to play for the Cardinals? And he also played for the Padres.
Jeff, I'm really starting to worry about you. I think I've contaminated your mind to the point where you're starting to think like me. All right, that's very good, Jeff. Here is the all-Pope team.
All right.
We're starting with our catcher, Christian Vasquez.
Perfect.
Deacon Jones at first.
Yep.
Max Bishop at second. Harry Lord at third.
Perfect.
Leo DeRocher is the shortstop.
Also on our all-O team.
Right.
Leo DeRocher.
Pope Leo,
perfect.
Our first outfielder is David Pope. So we will hit David Pope lead off in the game and Leo DeRocher second. So we'll go Pope Leo. Ryan Church is an outfielder. Jesus Alou, Dan Patrick's favorite player, is an outfielder.
Jesus Alou.
And speaking of Cardinal, Conrad Cardinal is one of our pitchers.
Amazing.
Along with Eddie Priest, current pitcher Bryce Elder.
Right.
And the stretch of the show, Rome Chambers pitched in the Major League.
That's great. No, I don't think that's a stretch at all. Now,
Jeff,
if you had Billy Conclave.
Right. Believe me, Jeff, I was looking for a con and a clave, and I just couldn't come up with it. But Jeff, it's really sad, pathetic that your 68-year-old dad would spend time coming up with the all-Pope team. All for just respectful laughs. Because Pope Leo is a baseball fan.
We are going to have to start up our segment, It's in the Cards again. Did you hear? I'm not kidding. This is not a bit. Topps released a Pope Leo card.
No.
I'm not kidding. Hand to God. Wow, probably not.
Poor expression of there. Right.
Yeah. They released a Pope Leo card, and they they did it with everything else, right? You know how they come in different fractions and different. I'm not a card collector, so I don't want to offend anybody. But yeah, there is a Pope Leo card. Dad, just like how you have your own baseball card. I have it somewhere over here.
Well, Jeff, my baseball card isn't going to attract the same money, I'm sure, that the Pope Leo card is going to come out. Which one is going to bring more money to a collector, the Pope Leo card or the Paul Skeens rookie card that was like so lucrative?
Well, it's interesting because since he just became the Pope, this is technically the Pope Leo rookie card because he's just now the Pope. This is his first year.
Right.
In 10 years, if he has another card, it'll be his veteran card because he's been in the game for a while. Or would his rookie card been when he was a priest? We don't know.
Jeff, those are all good questions. If we were Catholic, we might be able to answer them a little bit better. But
Oh, my
so
God.
I hope no one was offended that we had the all Pope team.
Well, tell him. So you call me and you had let me know that you wanted to do, but you wanted to make sure we wouldn't offend anybody. And I said I think it's kosher, no pun intended. And then you asked a teammate of yours at ESPN.
Brendan DeAngelis, who's our ace researcher at Baseball Tonight, he's Catholic. So I showed him the list yesterday and I said, "Are you offended by this?" And he laughed out loud. He said, "Of course I'm not. This is hilarious."
Well, my wife Emily was raised Catholic, right? And she has almost all of her sacraments, the whole thing. She said it was cool. And our baby McKinley, your granddaughter, was baptized in a Catholic church. She also said it was cool. So
right.
I think we're good.
So I think we're safe, right?
We're good. If McKinley gives the thumbs up on it, then I think we're
Jeff,
okay.
what a show this has been. We had the all Pope team and the all unfortunate name 10-man pitching staff. We got to get out of the house.
We have way too much time on our hands.
My goodness.
Well, tomorrow on the feed that you're listening to the show right now, we're going to have Steve Russian back from last season. So if you're new, you can go back last season in anticipation and listen to our interview with him. But Dad, give us a little tease.
All right, Steve Russian is the funniest person I've ever met in my life. He is the greatest writer I've ever met in my life. He is as clever with words than anyone I've ever met in my life, and he's just wicked smart. And he will make us laugh out loud tomorrow, I promise you.
I plan on asking him about playing basketball with you and Adam Sandler.
Yeah,
We're going to have to get down to the truth of that.
Yes, I
Dad.
did indeed play basketball with Happy Gilmore. We'll explain tomorrow.
Thank you so much for listening. Wherever you're listening, make sure to hit subscribe, maybe hit the share button, send it to a friend who loves the game as much as you do and as much as we do. And as always, thank you for being a part of our family.